Hello everybody, welcome back to the Desmowerx channel and back on to Bumble Bee today. So this will hopefully be a short video. I'm quite aware that when I say it's going to be a short video it goes to like 15 to 20 minutes, so this will probably be a short one. So the aim today is to do the compression test and then go for the first start. So I haven't started this bike yet. I know I said I was waiting on the battery, but what I've done is I've just taken the battery out of the main Thunderbike for now, so that I can get this sorted and get a bit of content out to you guys while we're all in lockdown, and gets me out of the house while we're in lockdown. Okay, so since the last video there's a couple of little bits and pieces that I've been doing needed to do. So on the back of the alternator I had to put in a new super seal connector between the generator stroke alternator and the regulator rectifier. That's because I had two different connections, so I had two male fittings basically, so that's been changed. I have fitted a Ducati, the correct Ducati HT lead for the front cylinder, because when I bought the bike the coil was mounted on this spar of the frame, so I don't know if you can see, but I've now got the coils mounted in the correct place, so I've got the correct length lead to go into there. I've just noticed today while I've been looking at this that this clip-on looks to be bent down, so it looks like it might have had a bit of a smash. So unfortunately my spare clip-on tubes are in my lockup, so I can't change that until I can sort of go and get the bits and pieces I need. I might be brave during the week and venture out during lockdown and try and get that tube. What else have I done? So there's a clutch cover gone on because I had one lying around, so we stuck that in there. Obviously we've got the Marchesini wheels on, but you hopefully would have seen that in the last video. I've just got this battery loosely secured in there so that we can turn the bike over. The oil cooler is all bolted up, so we've now got an oil cooler on the bike. What I didn't mention is I put on my old race swing arm onto this bike when I rebuilt it. So it's got a longer chain, which gives me much better sprocket configuration. So I'm running a 44 tooth rear and a 15 front, and also that's a lightweight one as well, so it just makes a little bit of added benefit. Taking the seat unit off, this is the next challenge I've got. I need to get a mono under tray to fit on here to stop water getting in here if it's going to be used in the wet. I think I've got a cover for the fuse, but I need to just sort that out as well. The other concern I've got with the fragility of the ECUs is this is not rubber mounted. So the previous owner has bought a RS copy frame, aluminium frame, which is nice, but it doesn't mount the 16M ECU. So what he's done is he's got a big sheet of aluminium and just bolted that direct to the seat unit, but as you can see there's no rubber damping anywhere, and with a PCB in there and how vibration heavy Ducatis are, I need to sort that out. You can see that I've also got these massive seat posts, the way he's mounted the seat, so it lifts the seat up. So the seat is not actually sat on this tube of the subframe spar, which I also need to get sorted. But I think the reason he's done that is because he's got this remote damper. So if you remember I said it's got an NTR damper, not an Öhlins. Its remote reservoir is stuck up here. I need to just see if I can swing that back once I've got the tray underneath the subframe and get enough space so I can mount the seat properly. And then I'll put a proper hinge mechanism in there so we can tip the seat up and down rather than having to completely remove it. I also made sure that the oil breather was connected correctly because we had a connection missing there. And I think that's pretty much all the little odds and sods that I've been doing over the last few days. So, bike hasn't been started, so I don't know if it's going to fire up. But what I'm going to do is just, the tank's loose because I haven't bolted it down. I'm just going to take the tank off, put that to one side, then I'll get the spark plugs out and we'll get this ready to do a compression test. Okay, so compression tester is basically a pressure gauge with a Schrader type valve in there, so pressure can go in but can't escape unless you press the release valve in. So I have a hose that just clacks in like that. Now I just need the right connection, which appears to be that one. This only needs to be finger tight. And then we just screw this into the bike. Okay, so set up for the vertical cylinder. Let's just test. So I think the maximum is about 115 to 120. But you did see it was bouncing up to about 120 to 125, so okay, same test again. So 120. So as you can see, we got 120 on the vertical, and my memory is gone quickly, but 120 or 125 on the horizontal. Service limit is 113, so we're above the service limit. The expectation is it should be between 125 to 150 for a 748. Engine's been sat for a while, so it might not be fully oiled on the cylinder bore, so that might explain a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the plugs back in now. I'll then top up the water for the cooling circuit, and then we'll stick the tank on and go for a start and see what happens. Okay, so plugs are back in, water's topped up, fuel tank's on. I've just noticed that the oil level where I've topped it up, having turned it over a fair few times now, it's reading low. So I'm just going to add in a little bit more oil to bring it up above the minimum line, because I don't know where the oil's actually sitting currently in the bike, having spun it over. And then I'll open up the garage door, we'll spin the bike round and then go for a run on it. So I'm just going to top up this oil off camera. Okay, bike's turned around, the exhaust pointing out the door, topped up the oil, battery's good, fingers crossed. Switch it on, not off. Pump's kicked in, which is good. You can see, completely cold, I haven't made a start on it yet. Here we go. Oh, close. Red counter reading. Okay, well that's interesting. We appear to have no power getting to the rev counter or temperature gauge because it's up to temperature. The engine is smoking slightly, not unexpected, bearing in mind I didn't know the history of the engine. So it gives me a fallback position, but obviously I've got some slight issues here as well that I need to rectify. Okay, I've just been doing the diagnostics piece and it appears that the rev counter is defective. I'm not getting any reading at all. When I do it on active diagnosis, which should plug in a 3,750 RPM reading, nothing. But when I do it on live data, I'm getting a reading coming into the Mephisis unit. So the ECU is picking up the revs. So I appear to have picked up a bike with a defective rev counter. So I'm just going to do a bit more diagnosis and just see what's going on. So I'm going to leave this off the camera and I'll just explain what's going on once I've finished. Okay, finishing the diagnostics. It appears to be that we're not getting a signal to the rev counter and the temperature gauge. I've ran the diagnostics in test mode and in active mode, and when I do active I can't send a signal to the rev counter, which is a worry, because that can be one of two things. It could be either be the wiring or it could be the rev counter. Interestingly, when I've put the voltmeter across the connection, I have some spurious readings. So I have a really high voltage sitting at the rev counter, which would indicate that there might be a crossed wire somewhere that's just supplying it a constant power. But from a ECU point of view, it's all working correctly. So it's revving correctly. You're seeing the temperature come up correctly. When you leave it sat for a bit, it cools off. So I'm confident that the back end of the bike electrically is working. I just got an issue with this rev counter setup. I have got a spare set of clocks somewhere. I tried to quickly find them but can't find them, so I'll have to do some digging around, see if I can dig those out and connect them up and see if that fixes the problem. If so, great. Obviously the challenge I have is it's a loom built by somebody else and it looks really pretty and tidy, but I don't know if they've got the right connections going into the clock or if something's been cut wrong, so I just need to sort that out. The other concern is that I might need to do a bit of top end work on this engine. So it's burning a bit of oil when you rev it, and as you let go of the throttle, which indicates both rings and seals. As I said, I didn't know the history of the engine. It was well serviced. Compression was at the lower end, which would sort of indicate that there's a slight issue there. You buy a bike quickly, you take your chances. You buy another engine quickly as well, you take your chances on that, which I'm not particularly really that bothered about it. It's a little bit of work just to take the top end apart and put some new piston rings in, check the cylinders, and then rebuild the heads properly. So I did promise this would be a short video at the start. It's not. So what I'm going to do is just stick the bodywork on, get the clocks, change those over. Hopefully that will sort that problem, and then make a decision on whether or not to rebuild the top end. Don't know how long this lockdown's going to go for. Don't know if we fix the other bike's electrical problem, which is primarily the reason why we were doing the work, to get this one up and running so quickly. But we'll get it sorted. It's not an issue. So the next video is going to be a bit of a fun one. I've just realised I have got a 748, a 749, a 1098S and a Panigale, all with open Termi systems on. So I'm going to run them all side by side, or one after the other, so that we can see the different sounds that the bikes have made through the generations of the builds. So it's a little bit of a fun video, primarily because I need to shift bikes around, because the next piece is to make a start on the ST2 project, which is my touring bike that had a slight little dink but looks a bit unloved, so I want to take that apart. There's a bearing issue I think on the clutch, so I just need to get that sorted. So look forward to the next video. Lots of noise, really annoy the neighbours. See what different termy sounds we get out from the different generations of bike. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, chuck us a like down below. Any questions or comments, then please feel free to ask as usual. And if you're not a subscriber, would really welcome you to the channel, and there's plenty more content to come. To all of my existing subscribers, thank you very much again for your continued support on the channel. It's really great, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers then, bye.